Hi everyone, I'm Philip Galinsky of Samba New York. In this video, I'll be breaking down the Chocalho and Agogô parts for this basic standard arrangement for the Samba-Enredo, using my original Samba-Enredo Sambando as an example. If you have arrived at this video randomly, I definitely recommend that you check out parts 1 and 2 of this series before continuing with us here. And if you're not familiar with the basic patterns that I'm presenting here on the Chocalho and the Agogô, just like with all the other instruments, definitely familiarize yourself with all of these basic patterns or any of these basic patterns before attempting to understand what these instruments are doing in this arrangement, okay? So in the case of the Chocalho, for example, just go to the Chocalho playlist here on the channel, and there will be a video called The Basic Pattern for Samba on the Chocalho, okay? So, and you can follow those same instructions for any of these instruments that are featured in this arrangement. So the basic pattern for Samba on the Chocalho is none other than the basic subdivisions of the Samba, which are the same basic subdivisions that the caixa, the repenique, and the tamborim play as their most basic patterns for the Samba, okay? The tamborim, of course, has the leco-teco, the Samba timeline, which is another fundamental pattern for tamborim, but the Chocalho does play these subdivisions as its basic pattern, all right? So the Chocalho will follow the tamborim. So after the chamada, the call, 2, 3, 4, after the tamborim plays its subida and it starts playing its carreteiro, that's when the Chocalho starts, together with the carreteiro of the tamborim. So, so we're into the first part of the Samba. The Chocalho will continue playing its basic pattern. Then it will play a virada with the rest of the bateria. And then when the bateria goes into the second part of the Samba, the Chocalho lays out for the second verse, the verse of the second part, okay? Which is very typical. Very typical for the Chocalho to play during the first part together with the tamborim. Very typical for it to lay out for the verse of the second part, and very typical for it to come back in together with the tamborim for the refrain of the second part, which is exactly what it does. Okay, so we're laying out for the verse of the second part. When we get to the refrain, the Chocalho will start right on the syllable ba of sambando, or ban. So it's going to be 1, 2, 3, sambando, sambando, eu vou te mostrar, sambando, sambando, é de arrepiar, sambando, sambando, eu vou te mostrar, sambando, sambando, é de arrepiar. So it'll play a virada right at the end, together with the rest of the bateria. Then for the 3 break, the Chocalho will lay out. So the Chocalho could have played together with the caixas and repeniques, tagaragata, tagaragata. So if we wanted to do that, we could go, and then we would start to play the carreteiro. But in this case, I just let the caixas and repeniques play that by themselves. Tagaragata, and the tamborins. Tagaragata, tagaragata, pa 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 pa. So after the tamborim subida, Chocalho comes in together with the carreteiro of the tamborim. Okay, so that goes tagaragata, tagaragata, ka 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 ka. 2, 3, 4. Virada into the second part, the Chocalho comes back in on the syllable ban of sambando, 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 eu vou te mostrar, sambando, sambando, é de arrepiar, sambando, sambando, eu vou te mostrar. Sambando, sambando, é de arrepiar. And then it plays the final virada. Okay? So that's what the Chocalho does for this basic arrangement. So after the chamada, the Chocalho plays together with the caetero of the tamborins. Virada lays out for the verse of the second part, comes back in on the syllable ban for the second refrain, lays out for the three break, comes back in with the caetero of the tamborins, then plays a virada, lays out for the second verse, comes back in on the syllable ban for the refrain of the second part, and then plays a virada, the final virada to end. Okay? Let's move on now to the agogô, the two-bell agogô. So there are two basic patterns for samba on the agogô that I'll be utilizing in this arrangement. By the way, I'm not playing the agogô as it would typically be played in a bateria, which is more like this. But because it has such a loud ringing sound for the video, I've decided to cup it in the palm of my hand, which is the way that I typically play the agogô when I'm playing in a small group samba situation, like a pagode group or a roda de samba. Okay? So the first pattern that we're going to use is this one. Hi, how are you? What's your name? Hello, how are you? What's your name? Okay? And we're going to play that for the first part of the samba, and we're going to play the second pattern, which is a version of teleco-teco, which is 1 and 2 and pom 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 pom. Okay, we're going to play that, and the second part once the tamborin starts playing together with the tamborin when it plays its teleco-teco. Okay, so let's back up a little bit. After the call, 2, 3, 4. We're going to play our pattern number 1. We're going to start our pattern number 1 together with the tamborins when the tamborins start their caetero, their turning pattern. Okay? We're going to play a virada with the rest of the bateria at the end of the first part. We're going to lay out for the part of the verse of the second part, and we're going to come back in with our second pattern, our pattern number 2, when the tamborins play their teleco-teco. Okay, so it's going to be like, second part. Prosseguindo, evoluindo, o samba ensina a paz. Nas baterias do mundo, ninguém precisa mais. Na chamada, on the syllable ma of the word chamada, meaning call, that's when we're going to start our pattern number 2. And we're going to go like this. Na chamada do repique, alegria. Na chamada do repique, alegria geral, contagiando a cidade. So it's going to be na chamada do repique. Sorry, like this. Na chamada do repique, alegria geral, contagiando a cidade. É o carnaval, sambando com os pés no chão, faz vibrar o coração. After the syllable são of coração, we're going to play a virada together with the tamborins. And when the tamborin starts its subida, we're going to go back into pattern number 1. Pop, 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 pop. Right here. Pop, 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 pop. We're going to play. Sambando, sambando. And that's together with, we're going to start our pattern number 1 together with the chocalhos, and that's when the tamborin is playing its subida. Okay? So we're going to play pattern number 1 for the refrain of the second part. We're going to play a virada to end, to go into the 3 break, right? Coming into the first part of the samba with a 3 break. The agogô will lay out completely for the 3 break. Boom tagaracata, boom tagaracata, boom pa 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 pa. 2, 3, 4. Okay. the agogô will come in again with pattern number 1, starting with the caeteiro of the tamborins, together with the caeteiro of the tamborins, and then it'll play a virada. It'll lay out for part of the second part, and again, it'll start playing its pattern number 2 together with the teleco-teco of the tamborins on the syllable ma of chamada. Na chamada do repique, na chamada do repique, alegria geral, right? And then before coração, after the syllable são, it plays a virada, and then goes back to pattern number 1 for the second refrain, and then plays a final virada to end, okay? So there you have it. In these 3 videos, I've covered what all of these instruments, first, second, and third surdos, caixa, repenique, tamborim, chocalho, and agogô, all play for this basic standard arrangement for the Samba-Enredo. Specifically, a Samba-Enredo that adheres to this most common form for the Samba-Enredo, okay? And my Samba Sambando does adhere to that form, so it's a great example to use, all right? So I hope you've enjoyed this series. I find it to be, I think it's really important for anyone who's learning to play samba to understand this basic structure of the Samba-Enredo, this most common song form for the Samba-Enredo, and one or more different versions of a basic standard arrangement that can be played for that most common form. And there are different versions of this arrangement, okay? I could go through a number of them, but the main point is that you know at least one of them, and that will get you started in the right direction. So for example, if you find yourself playing in a bateria, in a bloco, or even a samba school in Brazil or anywhere else, you will have, if you understand this basic arrangement, it is my contention that you will have at least a strong foundation for understanding what to play in that given bateria, as long as they're working within this Rio Samba School tradition, and as long as they're using the Samba-Enredo song form as their foundation, even if they're not playing a Samba-Enredo, even if they're just playing straight batucada, and they're using that basic structure of the Samba-Enredo, which the samba schools in Rio do. That's their foundation. Then you will be you'll be in a much better position to understand what to play. Of course, there are different patterns that different baterias use, and then of course there are arrangements that are much more complex than this one. But this is a great, let's put it this way, it's a great starting point for you to play in any bateria. And then from there, you'll need to learn the given patterns that are used in that bateria, which may or may not be different from these patterns. And you'll have to learn the arrangement or arrangements that they're playing, which may or may not be more complex or different from this one, okay? But this is a great starting point. So if you have any questions, please leave them in the comments. I hope you've enjoyed this series, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you in the next video.